Hello, my name is Bethany Pierson and I am the Program Coordinator for the Everett Rail Marshall Public Library. And in today's video, I am going to show you how to make our November craft, the paper pumpkins. So first, we will go through the items that you will need in order to do this project. Additionally, at the bottom of this video in the description, you should be able to find a link to our Google Drive folder that contains the document of all of these items as well. So first of all, we're going to need paper strips. We provided in our kits paper strips cut from scrapbooking paper. Cardstock would also well. You can use any paper, but these heavier papers are going to hold the shape and create a much better product, closer to what you're looking for. These strips are also cut out at 12 inches by ½ inch. You could do shorter and it will make a smaller pumpkin if you wanted to try that. I would recommend 10 or 8 inches instead of 12, but you might want to test and see how it looks first with just a few strips instead of the full amount of strips to see how it looks and determine if you want to try something smaller. You will probably need around 30 of these. You might choose to go with less, but you might also find you would like more. It is perfectly up to you and your preference. Additionally, you can see I have a few different colors here. We have an orange with little dots in it, and we have just a plain orange. It's very difficult to see, but it does have a little bit of a texture to it. We also have a brown tan color with dark brown polka dots, and then I just have a regular tan color. And you can choose whatever you would like to do for your craft. If you want it to not have any orange, if you want it to be green, if you want it to be purple, pink, blue, whatever, feel free to mix it up and do what you would like. Our kits primarily have orange with a few of the different colors in order to just add a little bit of texture and personality to the pumpkin. You will also need a leaf. Our kits provided die cut leaves from the cardstock as well, but you can easily, as I have here, print out a leaf template, just doing a quick Google search and finding one and printing one out, and print it on regular paper, heavier paper, and then cut it out. Mine is just colored printer paper that I cut out because it was easy for me to work with, and that's just what I decided to go with. And as you can see, this is a maple leaf. If you wanted to see if you could find a pumpkin leaf, that would be not a terrible idea, but our kits included maple leaf, so I stuck with the maple leaf. It's relatively close to the look of pumpkin leaves. It doesn't have nearly as many of the points, I believe, but from what my memory is, I know it's relatively similar, so I decided to go with that so that we would have leaves to add to it. You are also going to need a length of string or yarn. Ours is about 7 inches, 5 to 7 inches. It just needs to be able to be tied, so it doesn't need to be especially long. It doesn't need to be very short either. You're just looking for a decent length, and you will see how long it needs to be. So if you don't want to cut it out, you don't need to cut it down. You can see what we do first with it. And then I also have a piece of burlap. This burlap is going to be used to create the stem of our pumpkin. You can use burlap, you could use felt or any other scrap of fabric that you might have. You could also use a piece of paper, whether it's more cardstock or just regular printer paper in brown or white or whatever color works for you. You could also use a cinnamon stick. That might work as well. And then finally, you're going to need some tape. We are just using plain clear Scotch tape for this project. You can use glue, but I would recommend clear tape as it is going to be the easiest and it's going to probably be the least messy and create the best look you are going for. So from there, we are going to start working on the project. This is a relatively straightforward. It is mostly, it just takes time to cut out your strips and then the little bit of taping together that you have to do. And other than that, it goes relatively quick. So what we are going to be doing with all of our strips is creating a loop out of them and taping them. And then you will just rinse and repeat. You'll want to keep your strips taped at about the same width as possible so that they are all about the same size. You don't want them to easily fall through each other. So these are roughly the same size. So that's what we're aiming for. I'll just do a couple more here. If you have any of your strips where they're not perfectly straight from one end of the other, just do your best to center your pieces when you're taping it together. We're going to try to make sure that these taped edges are on the inside of our project so people won't really notice that. And that small imperfection will not ruin your project. All right. So I am going to skip forward. I have several of these that are already all taped together. If you want to pause the video at this point, that would be a great time to do it, to finish taping all of your pieces together, and then come back and start play once more when you are ready to go. So now you can see we have all of our strips all ready to go here. So one of our things that I'm going to point out here is the polka dot, the brown polka dot one is white on the inside. When you create your pumpkin, you will be able to see that white. And that's just something to keep in mind. The fuller it is, the less you'll be able to see the white. But if you used plain colors like this where the inside is colored, you might like that look more. You might find that the little bit of white that you see doesn't bother you. Personally, it bothers me a little bit, so I was trying to find a solution, and I did not really have any solutions other than to not get to have the fun little bit of texture, and I didn't think that sounded fun to me. So I am going to organize my piles here. So I have 3 piles of my different types of strips. And then I'm going to take my string and I am going to take all of my loops and I'm going to thread them right on my string. Kind of like I am making a necklace or something, but with extremely large beads. And I'm just going to create a pattern here and keep them more or less. I want to keep the same pattern so that I can space all of my different colors and textures out. You don't have to do that. Once you pull everything together, as you'll see shortly, they don't necessarily stay in order. So while it's a nice thing to kind of keep it mixed up a little bit, it's not required. You can also note that I am putting the tape all in the same basic side, because I want, when I tie this, and this is where our pumpkin comes in, when I tie this, it will create that pumpkin shape. And I want all those taped pieces to be as close to the inside as possible. All right, so now that I showed you how that's working, let's go ahead and finish looping these all in. All right, so I have all of my strips looped on, and now I'm going to pull it. You don't want this super tight because you don't want to crush your strands. Additionally, you're going to be putting your stem in the middle here, so you want it to have some breathing room. I just did a really simple double knot, nothing special. And now I'm just going to take a few moments to spread out my pieces and kind of tidy this up to get the look I want. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we still have a few more finishing touches, and I'm going to probably want to play with those a little bit as well. All right, that looks pretty decent. Just want to tuck that taped end in. There we go. All right. So then I am going to actually take my burlap and pull out a thread. And I'm going to take my leaf. I am going to tape my thread on. Now I have a string that I can attach. I'm going to simply loop it in here and tie small piece. And again, I don't want this really tight because I want to be able to slide it around, and I don't want to crush my strip. And I'm going to tuck that inside. Now I have a leaf that will be able to hang out there. And we are moving on to our last step, which is our stem. I am just going to trim this down because I have a lot of rough edges here. And all you're going to do is roll your strip, and you want to try to get the roll relatively tight. And you're just going to poke it right in to your pumpkin. And then it's going to take a few minutes of futzing once more, because now that you've poked that stem in, it's pushing your loops to a very specific spot. So it just takes a little bit of futzing. At this point, you might want to move it to where you want to display it and then play around with it for a few moments to make sure that you like how it looks. And I'm going to lay my leaf right there because I have a little bit of a gap. But that is the craft. So I hope you enjoyed this craft. If you have any questions or something's not working correctly for you, or you want to see if there's a different way that you can adjust it, go ahead and leave a questions or comments in the comments section down below. Additionally, if you want to share your creation, please do so on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and you can just tag us or add us, and we will be happy to see your different craft projects and to share them with our community. Thank you so much. Hopefully I'll see you next time.